بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا اللهم أعنا على ذكرك وشكرك وحسن عبادتك يا رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. So I am told that we are at the statement وَتُسَنُّ عِنْدَ أَوَّلِ مَسْنُونَاتِهَا إِنْ وُجْدَ قَبْلَ وَاجِبٍ, which is in the middle of page 204 in the commentary, and it is the second line of the fifth paragraph on page 2. Does that make sense? Is that where we are? Huh? I think so. I think that the Arabic that we're looking at now, would be the statement وَيَجِبُ الْإِتْيَانُ بِهَا عِنْدَ أَوَّلِ وَاجِبَاتِ الطَّهَارَةِ وَهُوَ التَّسْمِيَةِ, which we did last week. وَتُسَنُّ عِنْدَ أَوَّلِ مَسْنُونَاتِهَا إِنْ وُجِدَ قَبْلَ وَاجِبٍ وَاسْتِصْحَابُ ذِكْرِهَا فِي جَمِيعِهَا وَتَجِبُ اسْتِصْحَابُ حُكْمِهَا. I think that's the Arabic that we are covering at the moment, and maybe we should, inshallah, certainly, get onto then page 3 as well, which we'll deal with. So the translation of what we're covering today then, it is obligatory, meaning to make the attention, along with the first obligation of purification. What is that? Which is the stating of Bismillah, according to the madhab, right? Okay? And it is recommended to do so, meaning mention that intention, to have the intention, and it is recommended to do so along with the first of its recommended acts, its being the tahara, of its recommended acts, if indeed there are any to be found before the obligatory acts, and I'm going to explain that now. It is also recommended, this is to carry on وَتُسَنُّ, this is to carry on the original sentence, the original verb at the very beginning, that is still sunnah, okay? It is also recommended to remember the intention throughout the entire process, the process of the wudu, and it is obligatory to positively maintain that intention, in brackets, throughout the wudu. So I'll explain that now, inshallah. It's nice and easy. It's a good lesson today. Okay, so in the commentary then, Sheikh Al-Uthaymin, he opens up with this statement: وَتُسَنُّ عِنْدَ أَوَّلِ مَسْنُونَاتِهَا إِنْ وُجْدَ قَبْلَ وَاجِبٍ. That it is a sunnah, or it's recommended to make sure that we make the intention before or with, or when we talked about inda, right? Okay, act or before the first sunnah act, if we actually have a sunnah act before the wajib. Quick question: what's the wajib that they're referring to? Before the wajib, which wajib are they referring to? What wajib are they referring to? The basmala, okay? To say, or not the basmala, say the bismillah. Basmala, tasmiyah, that's good, yeah. To say bismillah. That's what they're referring to. Why is it that they're referring to that? Why is it? Correct. It is the Hanbali madhab alone that considers the saying of the word bismillah to be a wajib. If this was another of the other madhahib, if they are talking about this sentence, that it's sunnah to say it before, with the first sunnah actions before the obligatory one, what would be the obligatory act for them? The washing of the face, yeah? This if it was the other madhahib. Now, what are the sunnah acts then that can be found, okay, before saying Bismillah? We've heard intention, but that can't be right because intention itself is an obligation, and we are talking about the intention, okay? So we're now talking about the obligation of making the intention, okay? Now, we've already said that last week that it is obligatory to make the intention when? Before what? Before the first obligation, which is? In the Hanbali madhab, Bismillah. That's the obligation. Now we're talking about what the sunnah is. So that's like the last case kind of scenario. But what is the sunnah according to the Hanbalis? They're saying, well, okay, the sunnah is to have to say Bismillah, to have the intention. The sunnah is to have the intention actually before the first sunnah of the wudu. Not just the obligation of the wudu, but before the first sunnah of the wudu. So I have a question. What is that first sunnah? And the great thing is that I actually know, I mean, you guys make wudu every day, right? And you can't think of it. And the reason you can't think of it is actually why the sentence has been worded the way it has been. Because you're all confused. You're thinking, well, hold on, Bismillah is the first thing I do. That's what you're thinking, isn't it? So you're thinking, what comes before Bismillah? And that's exactly the point of the author. In Wujid, he goes, if there is one that you do before. Do you understand? So what would the example be? The example would be that a person, before he says Bismillah, he goes and washes his hands. Because in your mind, the idea would be, you walk up to the tap, you say Bismillah, and then you start washing. Which would be the right and sensible way. But it's possible that you will start washing your hands, okay, and say Bismillah. Now if you're going to wash the hands, okay, we already said that unless you've woken up at night time, etc., 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 the washing of the hands at the beginning of wudu is a sunnah act. So the main lesson being taught here is that we need to make sure that we have the intention for wudu before we wash the hands. And if we wash the hands after we say Bismillah, then you've got to have that intention before the Bismillah. Okay, alright, everyone's got a bit confused, okay? So let's start from the very, very beginning. We've got our Hanbali hats on, okay? The Hanbalis say what? That the Bismillah, the statement Bismillah is a wajib, meaning you have to say it. At the same time, they also accept that it's possible that the washing of the hands, which should theoretically come after you say Bismillah, that can come, or you might do it before you say Bismillah. Is that clear? So we got scenario A, where the person says Bismillah, then washes his hands. We got scenario B, where he washes his hands and then says Bismillah. Okay? Now we are talking about the intention, which is an obligation in all the madahib. We want to know where to put that intention in scenario A and scenario B. We already know that it is obligatory to make the intention, and it's obligatory to make that intention before the first obligation of wudu. We already know that. So now our author is asking us, what's the sunnah? The sunnah of making, meaning what's even better than the obligation? What's better is to do it at a certain moment. That certain moment is to do it with the first sunnah act of the wudu. What is the first sunnah act of wudu? Washing the hands. So, in scenario A, when does the intention need to be made?
No, before the Bismillah.
What was scenario A? No, correct. In scenario A was he says Bismillah and he washes his hands. Yes? So when must the intention be made? Before saying Bismillah. Scenario B, he washes his hands first, a sunnah act, and then does the obligatory Bismillah. When should the intention be? Before the washing of the hands. That's it. Is that clear, everybody? Yeah? You just understand, and that's why actually the sentence itself is very good. Now actually reread the sentence again. It is recommended to do so, meaning make the intention along with the first of its recommended acts, if indeed there aren't any to be found, before the obligatory acts. Do you understand now? So meaning that you have to make it before Bismillah. Before saying Bismillah, you have to have the niyyah and making wudu. We talked about that in depth last week, yes? That the intention is something which is real. In your heart, in your mind, you believe it. It's not some kind of, just bas term, it's a real thing. You got to believe it, you got to understand it. That has to happen before tasmiyah, before saying Bismillah. But we said that in this statement here, in case for whatever reason you forgot to say Bismillah first, and it happens, that's the reason why the authors put it. How many times have you put your hands under the water and you start saying Bismillah? Well, actually, you're already washing your hands. You've already moved on to the next stage. Do you understand? So that Bismillah is late. Now, does that lateness affect the wudu? No, it doesn't. That lateness does not affect the wudu because actually it's not mentioned in the tartib of the wudu. We just know that it has to be said at the beginning. Alright? And so therefore, I want to say to you that in principle, in the Hanbali madhab, it's either going to be said before you actually say Bismillah, or it's going to be said when you wash your hands, if you wash your hands before saying Bismillah. That's it. As for the other madhahib, okay, as we said before, we believe that to say Bismillah is sunnah, so the same rule applies. You will make the intention before any of the sunan, any of them, whether it's saying Bismillah, whether it's washing the hands, whether it's washing the nose, whatever. All of the madhahib agree, all four imams agree, as long as you make that intention before you wash the face, the three imams, beg your pardon, okay, Abu Hanifa, Malik, Shafi'i, they say as long as you make the intention before you wash the face, meaning that you might have already washed your hands, and and you're thinking, what's this? Oh, wudu. Okay, I'm making wudu. And then you wash the face, your wudu is correct. Is that clear, everybody? And that's the taught position of this class. That's the taught position of this class, and also the position of Shaykh Uthaymeen as well, because he considers the tasmiyah to be what? Sunnah. Okay? He doesn't consider it to be an obligation. Okay? And that's why he says, وقوله إن وجد قبل واجب يشير رحمه الله إلى أن هذا المسنون لا يوجد قبل الواجب في الغالب فالغالب أن يسمي قبل غسل كفيه وحينئذ يكون الواجب متقدما. He goes that basically this is something which is rare. Generally you will find a person who will say Bismillah before he does anything, but just in case he washes his hands before he says Bismillah, then this sentence covers it. Is that clear? Okay, alright, good. So the next statement was تسحاب ذكرها في جميعها. It is also recommended to remember the intention throughout the entire process. Okay? Meaning that it is sunnah, beg your pardon. It's a sunnah to be in a state of awareness that you are making wudu. And if you remember, and we are in a process, we're in the process of making a video, but I mean, it doesn't really show this part because you can't show sincerity on a video, right? Okay, only the process of the wudu properly, completely. But what I want to say, what I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, is that our big mistake, of course, is that when we go through, when we do wudu, we're just going through the motions, just like we do salah. Yep, we don't understand what's going on. We only remember right at the very end. Oh, I've finished my prayer. Yep. Astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah, astaghfirullah. Right? Then that's when you realize you just prayed 4 rak'ah or whatever. And the same with wudu. People generally kind of realize when they put the tap off, the water stopped kind of pouring, and they come out of their kind of like, their trance. And that's obviously a major issue. And all ritual worship is a problem in that manner. We're not alive in it. And so we know that the Prophet ﷺ, by his own tongue, has emphasized immensely this khushu' and this being in the presence and being in the zone during salah all the way, by so many interesting hadith. For example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Prophet ﷺ said in a Tirmidhi that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in front of the one who's praying, looking at him until the person who's praying turns away. And that turning away is not a physical turn away, because he remains facing the Qibla, isn't it? Yeah? But his heart turns away. So he's there, alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen, Rahman Rahim. Then he gets bored and his mind starts to wander, talking about X, Y, Z, thinking about this, that. Yep. So once his mind goes, then he's now lost. Now the rest is all autopilot, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has now lost interest as well. Okay, he doesn't care about you now anymore. Another hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said that a person will take either a 10th or an 8th or a 6th or a 5th or a 4th or a 3rd or a half of the prayer. No more than that. That's like the maximum a person is taking. What was he referring to? He's not referring to obviously the physical acts, because the person does that. He's referring to how much the person took away from it, how much he felt the process, did it impact upon him. And likewise, so these are very clearly stated. Likewise, although we don't have such super specific hadith upon wudu in this manner, we do have general hadith that are praising the act. that every drop, there's a drops of sins, with every drop that comes off, the sins fall off. When you're washing your sins completely. And they're more spiritual, they're more holistic. But the point is still there to emphasize that when you're making wudu, when you're rubbing your hand, okay, you should look at the hand, you should reflect upon the hand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you, and that you're wetting it, and you should reflect upon the beauty and the mercy of water, and the fact that you have some, okay? And that's the beauty of making wudu regularly as a habit with small little amounts of water, okay? And when I show you the video, maybe in a couple of weeks' time, I've already recorded one version. I'm just not very happy with it, that's all. Yeah, okay. But it needs to be improved. Different camera angle, maybe. Yeah. But we did it. I did three different wudu. Okay. I did one with complete loss of water, with the water running standard like we all do, standard pack wudu basically. Yep. Splish splash splosh. Lovely jubbly. And then I did a wudu with half a cup to show basically how the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. And so I recorded the video with the mud itself. I fill up my hands with exactly the amount, and then I did wudu with it. And then the third one, which I don't know, did I ever tell you about my Hajj trip tips? How to make wudu when you're on Hajj? Right, okay. So if I've told you, then I did that as the third, which is probably about a quarter of one of these. And I showed it. Now, I showed it for two reasons. Number one, to show you that it can be done, and you should now try and practice it. Once you see it done, you'll start practicing it yourself, and it's something which is good to revive. But number two, I wanted to show you so that you actually, even when you're watching it, it's something which freaks you out. It's something like wow, right? When you're doing it, it's even more insane. When you're doing it, you feel like you're living the sunnah. You actually feel like, subhanAllah, this is what it's about. And you're there and you're doing the dalk of a Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and you suddenly understand why would someone would do such vigorous rubbing, because you've got such little water. And whereas you're sitting like us, big fat taps, and just stick your arms under it like that, whatever. Stick your, wash, stick your foot up, both feet have to obviously, both hands, lift up the foot these days, So, just stick it in. How is it going to be a spiritual experience? Do you understand what I'm trying to say? And so, in addition to this, what the ulama here now are talking about is to maintain that spiritual experience, is to be in the moment. So when you're washing, you're feeling it. That, okay, I'm making wudu, I'm purifying myself. And we talked about the very first session, which was recorded from Reading Summit, where we talked about the verb of wada'a. Okay? The wada'a, with the hamza, this is a verb which is, in its linguistic sense, is talking about shining and bright. And when you are saying to another guy, do you have wudu? Or I just made wudu. We're thinking in the technical. So maybe instead you should be thinking in the linguistic. Am I really shining? Am I shining? Am I that person that the Prophet ﷺ mentioned? غُرًّا مُحَجَّلِينَ. The Prophet ﷺ said that my companions will come on the day of judgment, and they'll be instantly recognizable. غُرًّا مُحَجَّلِينَ. All of these parts will be shining, like shining. And whenever we think, in our very kind of ephemeral kind of Western kind of mindset, watching films and TV and all that kind of stuff, whenever heaven is portrayed, it's always portrayed bright, shining, and lights. And that's something which is, of course, in all of the religions, when they discuss heaven, these are the kind of words and adjectives that are used, which describe the purity and light and goodness and righteousness. And so we are actually meant to be living that when we are preparing for the greatest act of worship possible. In fact, subhanAllah, when you think about Surah Al-Ma'idah, the ayah of wudu only is given to us إِذَا قُمْتُ مِنَ الصَّلَاةِ, is only given to us as a favor when you stand for the prayer. Then go and wash your faces and your hands ila al-marafiq, and so on and so forth. So actually the reason we make wudu is for the prayer. And so if you want to do this great act of worship, then you need to come to it shining, pious, righteous, pure. And so the idea has got to be that when you're making wudu, if you're not feeling that wudu, if you're not getting a spiritual buzz off it, that's a problem. And so that's why they make it sunnah to have you thinking about wudu at every stage. This is a spiritual level. So you're thinking, I'm now, I'm purifying myself here, making sure that nothing is left uncovered. And we talked about that, I think we talked about enough, huh? We mentioned that when you watch like in the films when the actor, the guy who's about to blow everyone up and he's making his like final wudu, they make it so flipping dramatic, right? Always when he's about to kill everyone. Have you seen? He sits there in his bathroom, white actor, he's the convert who's going to kill everyone, and he's making this kind of incredibly spiritual ablution to go to heaven and kill like 1,000 people, right? And you're watching him, and the camera catches the water as it flows, and everyone's like, we're like, we're packs, we do it every flipping day, man. Anyway, so do you understand what I'm saying? So we need to revive that kind of that concept. Anyway, so, and what Shaykh Uthaymeen then says, he goes, this is obviously, and we're now talking about the intention, but that's a spiritual side, but there's a legal aspect to this as well. What's the legal aspect? The legal aspect is what the next line is going to discuss. What about if you for a second believe you're not making wudu? Okay? That's a problem. Okay? At any moment, if you believe you're not making wudu, you stop making wudu. Because intention is a belief. Right? Intention is a belief. Let me give you an example. I've given this example before in prayer, because when you use the prayer, you'll understand. Then we'll apply it to salah. When you're praying, okay, let's imagine you're in Surah Al-Fatiha, and you're halfway through, إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ, and then you say to yourself, you know what? This is a disaster. For whatever reason, I'm not concentrating, I'm not thinking, I don't even know what I'm doing, I've lost my mind, I'm about to collapse, whatever. You just come straight out of it. You would just come straight out of the prayer, because you're not praying. You've just told yourself, I'm not praying. I'm not here. I don't understand what I'm talking about. My mind's going. Maybe you're ill, or maybe whatever. I just need to sit down. So you sit down, you have your drink of water, whatnot, and then you start again. I'm now about to pray. Allahu Akbar. The same example, for example, if you are in the middle of Fatiha and then you realize, I haven't got wudu. So the second you realize I don't even have wudu, okay, you see people, they go, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, isn't it? Yeah, to exit the prayer. Have you seen that? Okay, then they go off to make wudu. There is no salam in the prayer. Why is that? Because the prayer is gone. How did the prayer go? Because you said, I'm not praying. That's it. Second you say to yourself, I'm not praying, it's gone. Do you understand? And that's what it means by the intention of any act has got to be there all the way through. Has to be there all the way through. Okay? Now we're going to talk about what does all the way through mean in a practical sense. We're going to talk about that. But I want you to understand that you, at any moment, okay, like let's say for example, you, I don't know, because I can't think of an example, I'm just getting random here. You're washing your face for wudu, you're making wudu, washing your face, and you're washing it, and then you think to yourself, tell you what, I'm way dirty than that. I need to go and have a shower or something. Okay? You need to have a shower. And let's just say, for example, this is, I know it's freaked out, but you're in a area, let's say you're in a farm where you've been working on the farm barefoot and your feet are filthy, and you realize yourself, okay, when you're making wudu, that, you know what, as part of my wudu, I'm not going to get myself properly clean. Do you understand? So halfway through the proper wudu, you say, sack this, I'm going to have to go and have a shower. Now the shower, to get to the shower, you have to go over a carpeted area to go into the shower room. And you can't afford to walk on that carpeted area with dirty feet, and your feet are dirty. Okay? So you carry on your wudu, which it isn't because you're not intending it anymore. You've broken, you said, you've already made the intention, I'm now going to have a shower. And you wash your feet. I.e., what I'm saying is that you complete the physical actions of wudu. Do you have wudu? No. You have no wudu, even though you did the physical acts of wudu, even in the right order, even the right amount. You don't have any wudu because you said to yourself, I'm not having wudu. That's the point I want to make. Okay? And then when you then go over there, and then obviously you need to make another new intention in the shower, and then you start again, or whatever. Does that make sense? Okay? That's what, now, sorry. That's what we're talking about when we're talking about having an intention and having a belief. Now, what Shaykh Uthaymeen just mentions at the end of, before we move on to the next point, he said that it being a sunnah to believe something is more for your benefit. And if your tongue said something else, he gives an example. What if a person was to say, I'm not making wudu. I'm not making wudu with his tongue for whatever crazy reason. But his heart, he still believes that he is making wudu. Is he got wudu or not? What do you think? Yes. Why?
He thinks he's got wudu.
He says, I don't have wudu. Actions are by intentions. Okay, fine. He says, I don't have wudu. I'm not making wudu. But in his heart, he knows, because this is istishab. This is, istishab comes from the word sahib. Istishab is to take a companion. The sahaba, is a companion, right? Istishab means to accompany the intention, to ask the intention to accompany you all the way through. This is what istishab means, okay? So basically we want to maintain our intention as our friend right in our hearts and minds all the way until the end. That's what basically we're talking about. Let's say that in your heart you still believe that you're making wudu, but on your tongue you say, I'm not making wudu for whatever reason. Are you in the process of wudu or not?
Yeah.
Yes. Why? That's right. Okay, that the intention is not something which is based upon what you say. The intention is a belief. Yes, it's a state. It's not a statement. It's a state, not a statement. So as long as you believe, that's what counts. Whatever you say doesn't change it. Whether you make it as long as you want, short as you want, speak in Urdu, Pashto, whatever, I don't know, whatever language you want to choose. Is that clear? And Sheikh, he gives another example. He goes, let's say that there was someone. He goes, an example that people would understand is that a person who wants to do Hajj. Okay? He wants to do Hajj, he puts on his ihram, and he now makes the niyyah. When he makes the niyyah, he goes, Allahumma Umrah. He makes the intention for Umrah. Says the word, Allahumma Umrah. Okay? That the intention for Umrah. But he knows, I'm here for Hajj. What's given precedence? What he has in his heart, what he believes, what he knows is there for. Is that clear, everybody? All right, good. So then, the final statement on that paragraph, and it is obligatory to positively maintain that intention. So let's look at the sentence before it. It is recommended to remember the intention throughout the entire process. So that what does that mean? It means that when I'm making wudu, I think I'm making wudu. I'm making wudu. Ya Allah, accept this wudu. Ya Allah, accept this wudu. Ya Allah, this wudu from me. You understand what I'm saying? That's a belief, and it's an ibadah. It's an act of ibadah, right? But but that's just recommended. If you can't do that, the minimum, the obligation is what? To positively maintain that intention. What does that basically mean? What do you think that means? No, that's constantly believe is the one before. So if I say it's obligatory to at least positively maintain it, it means correct, that you do not intend its breaking. Meaning that once you started off at the beginning saying that I'm making intention to make wudu, job's done. Until you say I'm now reading a book underwater or something. I don't know where that comes from, but some class. Anyway, the point is that you change it to something completely different, okay? You're still making wudu. Do you understand? Okay? This is the point that Sheikh wants to say. He goes, if you've understood that, then that means we can sum up the issue of the niyyah by saying there are four states or four situations, four scenarios that you can have a niyyah. Okay? 4 of them. The first one. أن يصطحب ذكرها من أول الوضوء إلى آخره وهذا الأكمل الأحوال. The first is to be in the presence, to have the intention in your heart and mind from the very beginning until the very end. That's the best. You start off, I'm making wudu. You're telling yourself, you're really enjoying the process. And you know what, brothers and sisters? Okay, even though you haven't seen the video, tomorrow or on the weekend, if you get an opportunity, Make your wudu with half a glass of water. Just challenge yourself. If you've never done it before, it'd be insane. Trust me. It'd be an awesome experience. Go out there and just say, right, you know what? I'm going to get myself some water, okay? In a glass, I'm going to go at it. I'm not even joking, okay? You watch this, you can see this water here? Okay? Watch that, yeah? I made wudu from this much water.
Can't see it.
And I had water left over.
Can't see it. You just put it down there. You can't see the level.
Can't see the level. Can I see it now?
Just point to it. Just point towards it. Just drop it out.
This is drop out of my head, yeah? Yani, this much. So, I'm just saying, do it, and even if you fail, or even if you do make it, the one thing I can guarantee that you'll be thinking is wudu, 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 wudu. All the way through, you won't think of anything else except wudu. You will so be in the moment, yeah? You will never make a wudu like that in your life. And that's why sunnah is always a revival thing. So, that's the first scenario, that you're thinking of wudu all the way from the beginning until the end. That's the perfect one, Shaykh says. Akmal al-ahwal, the perfect state. The second one is that he starts off by making the intention, and then he loses, it becomes a ghaib. He becomes absent-minded. Okay, so he loses it. Alright? But at no stage does he ever say, I'm doing something else. I'm making ghusl, or I'm cooling myself down, or what. He doesn't break that initial intention. Exactly. Basically, pak wudu, the one everyone does. Everyone's in group number 2. Okay? Alright? What did Shaykh say? This is هذا يسمى استصحاب حكمها. He goes, this is what's called accompanying with you the state, as opposed to the spiritual kind of reminding. It's a level down from the second one. You still got the intention, but you never lived it. It wasn't really with you all the time. It just never left. It's like almost you've invited the guest into the front room, and then you've walked into the kitchen and just left him there. But the guest is still there, isn't it? Until he leaves the house. That's like how it is. You're still going to get respect for the fact that you took the guy in and you sat him down. When he goes, he'll say, yep, he hosted me. He went missing for like an hour. I don't know what happened there. But then he bought me some biscuits at least. Yeah, and he didn't bring me didn't bring me any tea, but he bought me biscuits and some water. What do you want? You want charas? Huh? You want to dip in the rusk, yeah? Okay. So that's the second state. He goes, the third state is, or the third scenario, I guess, okay, is the one I just gave you in the barn. He starts off with the intention of wudu, and then he intends to stop it. But he continues on and does all the actions anyway. Okay? Does this person have wudu? No wudu for this guy. Okay? So the third scenario is a person, he goes, I'm making wudu, and he does everything, and he washes his head, everything, he gets right to the feet, right up to the feet, and then he goes, I'm not making wudu. But then he washes his feet anyway, because he needs to wash them. Even though he's done everything in the right order, he has no wudu, because he intentionally, actively cut his intention out. That's the third scenario. Okay? And then the fourth one, okay, is that he makes the intention at the beginning. It doesn't matter whether he remembers it or forgets it or not, or what, the intention throughout. Then he actively says to himself, right, I'm done with wudu. I'm not making wudu anymore. But that's after he's washed his feet. So after he's washed his feet, he actively breaks his intention. What do you think? It's not really done.
He still hasn't done the dua afterwards.
Okay, after dua then. Okay, after dua.
But the act is complete though, isn't it?
The act is complete, and it's not one of the conditions that to say I don't have to wudu to break your wudu.
Correct. Correct, absolutely. It's just straightforward. Remember, when you have an answer in your mind, it's normally the simplest answer. Okay, that the action's done, so it doesn't matter now that he actively breaks it. Okay, whether he actively breaks it or passively breaks it, it doesn't matter. Actually, what's happened is that the action is done, so it doesn't matter. Okay, and that's why Shaykh al-Uthaymeen, he goes, as Imam Ibn Qudama says in Al-Mughni, if a person intends the end of prayer after he has finished his prayer is complete. Now that sounds like common sense, okay? Well, it is common sense, I guess. There's nothing else to say about that. But Shaykh al-Uthaymeen then says, and from this we learn a qaida in usul al-fiqh. A qaida meaning a maxim, okay? قطع نية العبادة بعد فعلها لا يؤثر وكذلك الشك بعد الفراغ من العبادة. Okay, and this is the qaida, that the breaking of the intention of an act of worship after completing it does not affect the act. And likewise, doubting after one has finished from the act. Now, the niyyah thing you can't get hold of, but the doubt one is now going to really start to make a lot of sense. So I repeat that again. Actually, I don't even know what I said. So you got a video there, just play it. Okay? I said, what did I say? Breaking the act or something? Did someone write it down? Anyone type it or something? Allah, I have the memory of a goldfish. You know that. As soon as I say it, it's gone. What?
The breaking of the intention after
the breaking of the intention of an act of worship after its completion
does not break it.
Does not affect it. Did I not say? Not affect it? لا يؤثر, يعني it doesn't affect the ruling, doesn't affect the act, doesn't, يعني the act of worship is done. And likewise, doubt after you've completed the act of worship. Okay? You can continue. This is not actually technically part of the same qaida, but Shaykh Uthaymeen continues. سواء شككت في النية أو في أجزاء العبادة فلا يؤثر إلا مع اليقين. He goes, this doesn't matter whether you have doubted your intention or any of the individual acts of the worship, okay? As long as it's doubt, it's ignored completely. Unless you have certainty that you didn't do something. Unless you have certainty, 100% certain. For example, you finish wudu, okay? And you look at your left arm and it's bone dry. And the other one is absolutely soaked. But that's certainty. Do you understand? But a thought, let's say you bring your sleeves down, this is the difference, yeah? You'd only be able to make that a judgment if the sleeves are up, yes? So you finish now wudu, and now you're about to dry yourself, you go to dry yourself, and then you look at your arms, and you see this one soaked, you see this one dry, and then you think, did I even do that? And then, you look at that, and there's absolutely nothing there, and this is so clearly you did it. Now you need to go back, we need to do it again, okay? As we mentioned last time. But if your hands are like here, okay, meaning sleeves are down, and you're just now going to the towel to wipe your face, you're not really going to bother now wiping your arms or not, it doesn't matter. And you say to yourself, did I do that? There's nothing to prove to you that there is or there isn't. Okay? And as long as you are in doubt, then this means nothing. And that is our Ahlus Sunnah, my brothers and sisters, are flipping hardcore against doubt. We are so extreme against doubt. Meaning we slap that thing like a female dog. That's the only thing I could think of. It's better than swearing, isn't it? Do you understand? When doubt comes to us, we say later. Bobs likes the PC version. Where's Abu Dhar, by the way? Is he still ill, miskin, yeah? Okay then. So, do you understand what I'm trying to say? I mean, it's a really important point, actually. It didn't come across here as important. Was that okay according to mental guidelines and all the rest of it? Normally I get told you can't say insane. Oh, I said insane. You didn't say anything.
Oh, sorry.
Is that alright, yeah?
Context.
That was yes, Jazakallah khair. It's about context. It's all about context, brothers and sisters. Calm down, okay? I have someone here checking everything I say anyway. But do you understand what I'm saying, yeah? Do you understand that the point I'm trying to make? That you must... and why do I say Ahlul Sunnah are so harsh against doubt? Because doubt has ruined the lives of millions of people. Doubt is what introduces waswas. and you start to say to yourself, did I not? Did I not? Have I not? Did I pass wind? Did I not? Was that did I feel something there? No, I didn't. Is that me dripping or not? Did I wash myself correctly or not? Did I use enough paper? Did I not? Did I feel something go out there? No. Did I wash myself properly? Did I not? When I was praying, did I go and for this? Did I? It's from shaitan. 100% from shaitan. And that's why I said Ahlul Sunnah, they look at it, we'll slap it one, kick it out of touch, and just move on. The only time we ever consider anything is when 100% certainty comes. The Prophet ﷺ, subhanallah, when he prayed that Dhuhr prayer, 5 rak'ah, Bukhari. When he turned round, he himself didn't feel, but he was alright. But he saw people chatting, whispering, this, that, whatever. There's like people and then one man, subhanallah, he had the guts to say, was that something like new? I mean, was 5 rak'ah So he already had a feeling, heard all that noise, man stood up as well and said it, companion, not some joke, companion, all trustworthy people. The Prophet ﷺ stands up, walks around, goes to the pillar, leans against the pillar, thinking whatever. He goes to Abu Bakr, is it true what they just said? Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Meaning certainty's got to be certain you're going to make me do an act of worship again or correct something. Yep. And if it's doubt, then it remains out of our we don't give it consideration. So now Shaykh Uthaymeen gives a few examples. Let's talk about a few examples here. So he goes, let's say someone فلو أن رجلا بعد أن صلى الظهر قال لا أدري هل نويتها ظهرا أو عصرا شكا منه. Okay, he goes, if a person, he goes and he prays dhuhr, then after it he goes, you know what, I don't even know whether I prayed dhuhr or asr. I don't even know what I just did there, to be honest. Was it dhuhr? Was it asr? I don't know. So Shaykh Uthaymeen goes, as long as that guy came to the masjid at dhuhr time for praying dhuhr, end of story. That's it. There is no doubt. What the hell are you doing at that time? Why did he come to the masjid except to pray dhuhr? It's that simple. We don't need to make it any more, when you stand up at 1 o'clock at home or in your office, whatever, you're not standing up thinking asr. You're thinking dhuhr. You're thinking lunch. You're thinking lunch, right? Now, this is the key, because Shaykh Uthaymeen now talks about that, okay? He goes, we'll come to that in a second, okay? Let me just finish from this point. This goes back to the qa'idah. What did we learn from the qa'idah? What did the qa'idah say? When the action is complete, no, talking about doubt now, yeah?
You have doubt after the action is complete.
Yeah, then
It's fine.
it's not considered. Action was complete. I've got some doubt, was it this, was it that? Throw it out. Just throw it straight out. Is that clear, everybody? Everyone happy with that, yeah? So, he goes, another example, he goes, after he finishes his prayer, he then says to himself, Ya Rayna, last rak'ah, did I do 1 sajda or did I do 2 sajda? In last rak'ah or in the first rak'ah, it doesn't matter. But he's finished the prayer. What happens? It's done. It's done. Khalas, who's going to prove certainty to me here? Unless someone goes, hey bro, I recorded you on the phone, have a look at this. Then really, you're an unlucky boy, isn't it? Some weirdos videoing you and he shows you the proof. Well, that's obviously, that's another game altogether. Right? But in the absence of that, okay, absolutely don't care. Whoever says that to you, that voice, tend to get lost. Yep.
So, say for example, you make wudu.
Yep.
You actually did forget to wash your left hand.
Yep.
However, you're uncertain, so you go pray anyway.
Correct. Absolutely correct. This is after the act. Yeah. After wudu, you're not sure whether you did it. Not sure. Yeah. Okay? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter even you never did it at all. Right, so not even if you didn't even wash any arms or hands. So because you walked in, you believed you did it, and you carried on, and only until afterwards you thought, did I not? The normal principle is that you did. That's from the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
So what happens if you pray the salah, after you finish the salah, you remember that you actually did it?
Certainty.
Then you remember, oh yeah, I didn't do it.
No, there's a difference with certainty. If you know for a fact that you didn't, salah is gone, wudu is not there,
Then you pray.
have to make wudu, have to then, certainty is different. Yani doubt is something which is the absence of certainty. Certainty, yani that's ridiculous. Otherwise the deen would turn into a farce. Wouldn't it? The religion would become a farce. Because basically people would then ignore things and say, well, it doesn't matter. Do you understand what I'm saying? Does that make sense? I think that's actually a more important lesson to take. If we were to play like that with certainty, then everyone would just blag everything. Isn't it? Yeah? So, now this is a really good point. Shaykh Uthaymeen goes, here we have a really important point. وَهُنَا مَسْأَلَةٌ مُهِمَّةٌ. Very important mas'ala we have. And what is that? وَهِيَ لَوْ نَوَى. If the guy makes the intention for the time, not for the prayer. Now you guys might not be able to relate to that, but you will if you're working. In the Muslim countries, okay, the whole day is split into Fajr time, Dhuhr time, Asr time. It's not necessarily the prayer itself, it's the time, because people have got holiday, or the shops get closed. People understand it. They don't see it from 12 to 5, the shops are closed. They see it as from Dhuhr till Maghrib, the shops are closed, right? Or from Dhuhr to Asr, the shops are closed. So people think of the prayer time not as the prayer itself, but as the prayer time. So Sheikh says, he goes, if someone makes the intention for the prayer of the time, for a prayer in a time, as opposed to specifying the actual prayer, what happens to this person? Sheikh goes, this happens loads of times. فلو جاء إنسان مثلا لصلاة الظهر ووجد الناس يصلون ودخل معهم في تلك الساعة ولم يستحضر أنها الظهر أو الفجر أو العصر أو المغرب أو العشاء وإنما استحضر أنه فرض الوقت فالمذهب لا يجزئ. He goes, this happens all the time. He goes, it's Dhuhr time. A man comes into the masjid, it's Dhuhr time. He doesn't make intention for Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, Isha, Fajr, nothing. He just, I'm praying with the Jama'ah. Is that understood? But he walked in at what time? And he knew it was Dhuhr time, but he didn't make intention for that prayer. What are the positions? The madhab, the Hanbali madhab, لا يجزئ. لا يجزئه, يعني it is not accepted from him. That prayer is not accepted because he has to لابد أن يعين إما الظهر أو العصر أو المغرب أو العشاء أو الصبح. He goes, in the madhab, it's not acceptable that. In the madhab, he has to specify a prayer. He must say, even in Dhuhr time, he must say, I'm praying either Dhuhr or I'm praying Asr, because, and you know why, isn't it? Because actually all of these could happen. Let's say the guy missed Fajr prayer. You understand? If he missed Fajr prayer and he just stands up and prays in Dhuhr time, he could be praying missed Fajr, theoretically. Let's say he's a traveler or combining, whatever. He can pray Asr in his Dhuhr time, yes? Together. So you could be praying Asr. This is the Hanbali madhab argument. You have to specify the name of the prayer. Shaykh Uthaymeen goes, but there is a narration from Imam Ahmad. Wa an Ahmad al-Riwayah. He goes that a person, the narration from Imam Ahmad, and it's narrated by Ibn Rajab in Jami' al-Hikam, in the book of Imam Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali. He narrates that Imam Ahmad has one riwayah saying that a person who makes the intention for the time of an obligation, that will be sufficient for him. Whatever the prayer he does, it will be accepted as the prayer of the time. Okay? And he goes, some of the companions, meaning some of the major Hanbalis, in the madhab, they also chose this position, and you can see that in Al-Insaf. The reference is given there. And he says, he goes that you'll be surprised how many people do this. And I guess the closest that we'll ever get to it is the idea of lunch. If you're a working kind of guy and you go into your lunch break, you might not be thinking Dhuhr, but you know that lunch is around Dhuhr time, and then you know that I pray my lunch break. I pray my lunch break. Sometimes you might go into your lunch break and you might stand up and pray. You might not even think of the name of the prayer. Anyway, the reason that the mas'ala is being mentioned here is that it exists and it's definitely better to be on the safe side. Shaykh Uthaymeen does not give his opinion. He doesn't say whether he accepts. I mean, I find it compelling that his emphasis that there is a narration from Ahmed found here and there that he does allow it. I find that in my experience with Shaykh al-Uthaymeen that he's leaning towards that it might be acceptable if a person did forget. Okay? So that might be him saying, I'll accept it. But there's no doubt that you would stick to the safer side. The madhab side is safer. I.e., make your intention each time, inshallah, for the prayer and not for the time. And he gives, based upon this, a mas'ala. He gives a mas'ala. He goes, a person comes to the masjid at dhuhr time. Doesn't intend the dhuhr prayer itself. Okay? He comes to the masjid at the dhuhr time. سلم من ركعتين من الظهر بناء على أنها فجر. He comes into the masjid. He doesn't think anything. Allahu Akbar. By himself. He must be praying by himself. Okay? Actually, he doesn't say masjid. Let's just say dhuhr time. He's praying. After 2 rak'ah, he goes, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Because he thought it was Fajr prayer. So he gave the salam thinking it was Fajr. Even though he's praying in Dhuhr time. What does this person do? Now, what does he do? Does he, 2 options. Stand up and fulfill 2 rak'ah more to make it 4, or does he start again?
He's given salam.
He's given salam. He's given salam in the middle of a 4 rak'ah unit prayer. After 2, intending nothing, intending that he gave salam, thinking that it's Fajr.
So he just started praying.
He started praying in Dhuhr time, knowing that it's Dhuhr time, but he starts praying and then he's got this, for whatever reason, he gives salam after 2, loses the plot completely, and he thinks it's Fajr and khalas.
Did he read Fajr in the morning?
It's a good point. It is a good point. And would it affect the ruling? Would it affect the ruling?
Then he has to pray Fajr first.
No, it doesn't affect the ruling. You know why it doesn't affect the ruling? Because he believed it was Fajr.
So after he's done 2 rak'ah,
Yes.
he realizes it's all the time.
Correct. Exactly, that's the question. After he's given the salams, he's looked out and seen broad daylight,
He's got to start his prayer all over.
and he's now realized, hello, it can't be Fajr. This. So we got a scenario here. Remember, he came into the masjid at the time. This is based upon the whole idea of niyyah for the time and niyyah for the prayer. So after he's given salam, he's like, oh, hello, and whatever. Is that clear? What answer? Let's have a hand vote, okay? Have a hand vote on which one. The first one is he stands up and completes the prayer. Okay? Those who say he has to start the prayer again. Okay. Bob's justified.
It's because he's made the intention he's not made the intention, but he's praying. He's not made the intention. The madhab says you can't make the intention for the time.
Okay.
Yeah. So he's praying Fajr. He's like thinking about Fajr.
Yep.
And so that prayer's nothing to do with Dhuhr.
Anyone want to add, support, negate?
He's actively changed his intention from one to another, so he's broken the first action.
But he never had the intention to pray the Dhuhr anyway.
No, he did. He started with the intention to pray Dhuhr.
He didn't.
No, he didn't.
He didn't.
Only as in the time of
intention.
Just time. Just general, yani, here I am, I'm flexing. Yani, walked into the masjid, some chilling, looked like Dhuhr time. Let's see what go on. Yani, he's just kind of chilling out. Go on.
So had he prayed that prayer in Fajr time, even without an intention, it would be okay. But because he's in Dhuhr time, it's
Yep.
not.
Why not?
Because it's the wrong time.
Because the wrong time.
Yes.
Wrong time for the
So
Fajr prayer, you
He
mean?
didn't have an intention to pray
Right.
any particular prayer.
Okay.
It just happened to be in Dhuhr time. He prays 2 rak'ah.
Okay.
So he finishes.
Okay. Anyone else? Make it. Yep. What was that, yeah? When a man on the wall turns around to look at the wall, yeah? That is desperate, isn't it? Why put your hand up in the first place? And then it cuts me. Why put your hand up when you know there's a wall behind you, and then you realize you get asked, and then you look at the wall? Because there's going to be lots of people behind you on the wall. I like, cuts me, like that.
Zuhur is obligation.
Go on, yeah.
If you miss, he didn't pray his Fajr Salah, right?
No. It doesn't matter. Let's say that he has prayed Fajr prayer.
Oh, then, because he came in with no intention, but he looked at time, he saw his broad daylight. So he knows it's going to be Dhuhr prayer because he seems.
After he's finished.
Yeah, but he has intention for Fajr.
Yep.
He finished the prayer.
Yep.
So he has to start prayer again because he used to pray Dhuhr first, then.
And that's the answer. That is the answer. Okay? The answer is, if a person was to do exactly that, he has to start the prayer again because he's got nothing on Dhuhr. He hasn't even got 2 units into Dhuhr. He's just intended something completely different. And now he's realized that's cancelled now, basically. So he has to start again. Basically what everyone has been saying so far. Okay? Now, when would there be a scenario where he can stand up and continue? Is there a scenario where that could be recovered?
When it's prayed.
If he was praying the Dhuhr.
Correct. If he was praying Dhuhr in Dhuhr time, knowing that he's praying Dhuhr, and then he gave the salams both sides, done, okay, and he's out, then he realizes, hello, what have I done there? Yes, he can stand straight up, and that's what he should do, and he carries on with the prayer. That salam doesn't affect the prayer at that moment. He carries on because he still thought there was prayer. He's made a mistake, basically, and so he finishes off the 2 rak'ah, and then at the end he will do sajda. He will do the prostration for forgetfulness, and according to the madhab, that will be after he gives the salam once. He will do 2 prostrations, then give the 2 salams. So that's obviously about 7 years away. All right.
Without talking to anyone, or
We'll come to that, okay, in 7 years' time. All right. So that actually finishes, according to Shaykh Uthaymeen, page 2, which I think is all right. We didn't get as far as we thought we would. No, we did 4 pages-ish. So that's okay.
Is that where you made the intention?
Let's do some questions. Yeah, you find the ones there. Yeah.
Is that where you made the intention to do 4 and only do 2?
That was he made the intention to do 4. He made a mistake and stopped after 2, and he realized straight away.
If you made the intention to do 2 and read 2, that's completely wrong, isn't it?
For Dhuhr,
Yeah. As that would be completely wrong.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. This is where it said 4, he's only done 2.
Huh?
This is where he said he's doing 4 for Zohar.
Yeah. What we're talking about is a person who's thinking, I've got to do 4 for Dhuhr, and he does 2. And there's a guy who obviously comes to masjid doing 2, wanting to do 2, and thinking Dhuhr is only 2, then obviously that's messed up, you know what I'm saying? He's non-traveller, obviously, and everything, yeah.
This actually happened at Christmas. I was travelling with a companion who's visiting, not used to the short days.
Right.
We went to the Muslim Youth Academy in town. Their Asr was at 1:35.
Just trying to work out why you turned the NYF to the NYA, but it's okay.
Well,
Yeah. Go on, yeah.
So I said, let's read Salah. We went and
Dhuhr time.
No, their Asr Jamal is at 1:35.
Yeah, one of those dodgy Arab mosques. Yeah, okay, yeah.
So went in,
Yeah.
read Asr Salah,
Yes.
and afterwards he comes out and says, when's Asr? I said, what do you mean? He says, that was Zohr, wasn't it? So he's made Nia
Yep.
for Zohr,
Yep.
read Asr behind Jamal.
So I want to answer that question, but I want to first understand, you prayed Asr.
Yeah.
Where did you pray your Dhuhr?
I met him, I prayed my
You see? I want to make sure, you see, brother. I don't want you blagging it, you know what I'm saying, yeah? Okay, that's right. So that miskin, he hadn't prayed Dhuhr at all.
No.
Yeah, and you already had.
Yeah.
And because you knew that this is Asr time, you walked in expecting Asr, he walks in expecting Dhuhr.
Yeah.
Excellent. So for the purpose of everyone, so this is a person who is coming to the masjid and he honestly believes that what's happening here, the prayer, is a dhuhr prayer. Yes, is a dhuhr prayer, even though it's an asr prayer. And he intends the dhuhr behind the imam is praying asr. This is acceptable. It's not acceptable in the Hanafi madhab, okay? But it's acceptable in our madhab, in Hanbali madhab, and the position of the contemporary scholars, and it's the position of Shaykh Uthaymeen as well. So we believe it's acceptable for a person to actually not only unintentionally, I mean this is easily, actually many ulama will back this person. We're saying intentionally is also possible as well. Meaning that a person comes to the masjid and sees someone praying asr and says, I'm going to pray dhuhr jama'ah with them. Okay? Actually intentionally permissible. I don't want to say that it's a good habit. I don't like it as a principle, as comfortable, but is the prayer acceptable? That's the position of the ulama.
Would he have to do his asr?
Yeah, unless he wants to blag it. Well, he has to do asr somewhere, doesn't he? Oh, it's unbelievable. Unbelievable. Technically, he's done asr as well. Flipping heck. Never heard that before in my life. The guy, he wants to do, honestly, he wants to blag the asr into dhuhr and claim asr as well. That's me pure pack. Unbelievable. Respect. Get out. Respect. Yep.
So you come into a masjid and then dhuhr just finishes, but as you come into the masjid it's still dhuhr, but then it finishes because then adhan of asr, and you start playing dhuhr, then adhan go off, the adhan starts, the mu'adhin does the adhan. So what happens then?
You just carry on. You just carry on with your dhuhr. That's fine. Yep. Online?
Sorry, the Bismillah. Verbal?
What's that?
You want to say it? The Bismillah?
Yes. In the madhab, when they say the tasmiyah is an obligation, it's a verbal one. It's not a theoretical one or something like that. It's Bismillah.
So do the bathroom and things like that.
Right. So this is a good question. And I think we covered it in year 1. The idea of the statements that are made in terms of dhikr, whether it should be done or not in bathrooms and so on and so forth. Okay. Now in principle, okay, the ulama they differed, and we talked about what's considered the toilet or not. Okay. We would say that our bathrooms, if you want to be really kind of on the safe side, you wouldn't say it at all. You'd say it outside. You'd step outside. You'd say Bismillah. Then you'd come back into the bathroom. That's possible. I will say to you that our modern day bathrooms are not like a toilet. It would otherwise we get into a major issue then. Okay. Classically this was not the case. The toilet is somewhere outside, and then somewhere else, and then the area for the water is somewhere else, and so these are clean kind of places that don't have that exact same hukam as making the dhikr. There are some ulama that said that you shouldn't say the Bismillah there, you should say outside, then come in, and also the dhikr afterwards you should do it outside. I personally, and this is the position of our teachers, is that it is acceptable to say the Bismillah there, and it's also acceptable to do the dhikr there as well, in a normal bathroom I'm talking about, modern day bathroom. But if you can do the dhikr outside, then it's better. Yeah.
Would it be possible to say it like moving the lips but not making the noise?
Yes, it would be possible, but then it would be the exact same thing. So I want you to understand that the concept of dhikr not being right to say in the area of the toilet is not loud dhikr, it's dhikr. And dhikr, to be accepted as a rewarded action, has to be physically done. You do not get the reward for me now saying the 3 subhanallahs that I just said in my head. I have to say, that's what I got rewarded for. I said subhanallah. You didn't hear me, but I said it. Do you understand? My reward is not me my reward is not based upon me saying subhanallah, subhanallah, subhanallah. And that, of course, brothers and sisters, is the rule concerning all acts of worship that have a verbal component. Salah is not acceptable reciting in the head. A lot of people make that mistake. Okay? It is qira'atul Fatiha. It is the recital of Fatiha. You can say Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, or you say, meaning it's recited. It can never be said in the head. Dua is different. A dua is accepted in principle from the heart. The tongue just follows what's in the heart. An act of worship though, that involves reciting like dhikr, then that is something which is a verbal act. So the answer to your question, it doesn't actually affect the ruling. You wouldn't. Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu ta'ala anhu, I was going to try and find something as an example, but I can't. So remember I was saying that the actual prohibition is in the toilet, meaning when you're defecating or urinating. That's the prohibition in that region, in the process and in the region. We talked about this in year 1. Not giving salam, not responding to salam, etc., etc., etc. And our modern day bathrooms are super clean areas where the toilets over there, we're making wudu over here, etc., etc. Obviously, if you're somewhere else, then that obviously increases the potential problem. But I want you to understand that the real prohibition is about during the unclean act and in the sphere of the unclean act. And if you can make a mental differentiation or divide between two kind of spheres or zones, then that's acceptable. Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, he used to put stick in his mouth when he was going to the toilet, because he was a person who was always making dhikr. And so when he was in the process of going to the toilet, he would, so that he physically can't say it. And you know something? And that's obviously the sign of a good man and a righteous person. But even unrighteous people need to do that sometimes. I'll tell you, I do it as well. Okay? But for a completely different reason. That reason is, if you're in a house where the Quran is being played, and you know that Quran being played, and you are hearing it in the bathroom, you know it's a subconscious reaction to recite that Quran. And you should put something, or it's very difficult to. Quran has that addictive thing, isn't it? When you hear it, you recite it. You don't recite it loud when you recite it, but you do recite it. It's actually really difficult to recite something in your head, by the way, which is why the hukm is upon just reciting. And so you might need to stop yourself. And that's important. Everyone should keep that in mind. Yeah.
Wasn't there a companion that put 2 sticks when he went to the bathroom because he was always seeing dhikr?
I don't know of any other companion other than Sayyidina Abu Bakr as-Siddiq who did exactly that. Not 2 sticks, 1 stick. Maybe a riwayah 2, I don't know. Yeah.
Sheikh, I just want to clarify the points about doubt. You mentioned that once the action is complete and then doubt comes into your mind, it's complete, it's over.
Yes.
However, as an example, you're doing wudu.
Yes.
And you've gone to the point where you've washed your face and you've gone into washing your hands.
Yes.
Arms.
Yes.
But you're not sure whether you washed your hands or not. The doubt is at that moment.
Yep.
But the action is not complete. So because there's doubt at that stage, what would you do? Go back and...
Okay, so the way that we deal with doubt within an act is like how we deal with doubt in any act of worship. Again, I'll give you the example of salah. So in salah, we have a process where if you doubt something, either you are unsure as a result of it, and then the Prophet ﷺ told us to do what? Build upon that which is certain. So therefore you go back and you assume that you've only prayed 2 as opposed to 3. You might end up praying 5 in the end, but at least you're certain now. Agreed? The second response to doubt is what we call making taharri, meaning you sit there and you think about it, and this is narrated in the hadith of Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, and what would happen is that you would play it over, you'd have a little think about it, and then you'd suddenly realize, I'm okay. In salah, according to some of the ulama, even for this I'm okay process, you need to do sajda sahwa afterwards. You would carry on from where you are. But the point is that you made a conscious decision. Alright? So that's just the example of how it would work. In wudu, the same. Except that there's no sajda sahwa. So in wudu, you would look at this issue of doubt. If it's something which actually there's a point, could be an argument there, and you're there at the moment, then you'd cover it. You'd deal with it. Yep? Like going back 1 step. And if there is absolutely no basis for it, you have a little think, and you're just saying, stop being stupid. You say to yourself, stop being stupid. How can I have not done that? My hands are wet, for example. Yeah? So then you just carry on. And there's no sajda at the end. There's nothing at the end. Alright? Yeah.
You mentioned the hadith, basically said in Tirmidhi, where Allah looks away from the person who looks away.
Yes.
Say, for example, you lose concentration midway through salah, then you regain your concentration.
Yes.
Does Allah then pay attention to you?
We don't know. Allahu A'lam. Good question. maybe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will increase his karam upon that person again one more time. Allah knows best. Yep.
Right. You have made a full wudu. Afterwards, you notice sleep in your eye, even though you thought you had already washed that off during wudu. Does this mean you redo your wudu, or go redo your eyes and face part of the wudu, or just ignore it and start praying?
You ignore it and start praying, because the depths to the level of cleaning every single trace of whatever's in the eye, of sleep and this and that, whatever, is not something which we have any evidence for to go back to this level. Shaykh Uthaymeen is going to give an example next week where he says that if a person is wearing a ring, it is not obligatory to take that ring out, to take that ring off rather, or to remove your dentures, for example. Meaning there's a general understanding that you would wash and then you would kind of just rub that area, and that's basically covered. You don't need to take the whole thing off and so on. You give it a general rub and you understand that it's washed. And afterwards, if you found, if it's possible that there's it's not that you find, it's just not considered. So he would just clean his eyes. That's what he would do. Nothing affecting the ruling. And Allah knows best.
Either you have doubt, uncertainty, it doesn't remove certainty, or you're certain. So I don't understand why he said that you would still do a sajda sahur if you had a bit of doubt.
So, first of all, some of the scholars, they don't accept this. This is a khilafi issue. The concept, and that's why we should never bring up subjects that are out of our thingy. But let's not entertain that. That is correct. The question is correct. In the chapter of Sajdat al-Sahu, there are some ulama that do not consider a category which is called taharri. What does taharri mean? It means a person who's doubtful, thinking about something, and then he realizes that he's okay and still has to do sajda sahwi because of basically the poorness of his intention and the doubt that happened even though he dealt with it. Okay? That is a controversial hadith, and not controversial meaning it's differed over. So let's not get into that now. Have any more questions there? Go on.
Is it okay to recite Dhuhr and Asr out loud for the sake of concentration if praying alone at home?
It is not haram in the outright sense, but this is a bid'ah, and from the point of the bid'ah it would become haram. Meaning that it is against, if a person was to do it by mistake, if a person was to do it out of desperation on a one-off occasion or something like that, then maybe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will forgive it. But in principle, to believe that it should be done, or that it's better for me and I should do it, this is a pure bid'ah. This is you claiming something is better done than the way that it's been legislated, and therefore that would fall into innovation. That would be haram then.
Praying in Jama'ah, can we listen, or do we have to move our mouths and recite?
Right. So this again a question off the topic, and it is acceptable to follow the recitation without having to recite it. Following the recitation, you don't have to recite it in a jama'ah if you're praying behind the imam. The Hanafis of course don't accept it at all. Shafi'is say no, you have to recite the Fatiha, and so that after the imam has finished reciting Fatiha, he goes Ameen, then the musalli would go Alhamdulillah Rahman Rahim Maliki Yawmiddin. This is in a congregation. But the position of Ibn Taymiyyah, Shaykh Uthaymeen, myself, our taught position in the fiqh of salah is that a person doesn't have to recite out behind the imam, just follows the recitation without moving his lips.
Last question, you mentioned fiqh of salah. Someone's asking, when are you going to be doing it in London next?
It's actually an interesting question, because I don't think it's that far off. It might come back within a year maybe, or a couple of months. No, not a couple of months, meaning it might be at the end of this year. Which reminds me, next weekend I'll be teaching the fiqh of death. That's coming Friday, next Friday, so in 9-10 days time. The fiqh of death, brothers and sisters, for those who don't know, and please tell your friends and surrounding people in this region, because it won't be going to Bradford, so you want to be telling the people towards Leeds, Bradford, that side, and so on. This class is a double weekend class, okay, and it's obviously covering the concept of death itself, the actual process of death, and the Islamic rulings concerning death, the process, post-death, and the rulings concerning the family, and then the washing, and then the kafan, and then the dafan, which is the burial, and all the actions that are surrounding that, and then the rulings about what happens afterwards in terms of what is done for the dead, and all the controversies surrounding that. And then it will be covering the concept of grief and mourning, and condolences, and the fiqh rulings concerning that. It will be covering the barzakh, the states, understanding pre-death and then post-death, the state of the body and the ruh, and all those issues as well. And then it will be doing inheritance as well. We'll be covering inheritance, the principles of inheritance, going through some examples as well. So double weekend class, and it will be starting on Friday. And if you all can't make it, just make sure that you send at least someone from your family, at least one person, okay, that goes and then gets a good. Also, of course, the will, writing of the will. That's a significant point as well. The understanding difference between the will and the wasiyah. What is actual wasiyah? What is this obligation, which no Muslim is allowed to spend one night asleep without having written it? Many people are like, what? Yeah, I've never heard that. Don't know that. So, yeah, that's an obligation, absolutely. So, make sure at least someone in your family is there, because it's one of those kind of things that is obligatory knowledge that people need to know what to do. You know what I'm saying? Price is going up tomorrow. Next Wednesday. Is there anything more you wanted to add? The first weekend. Yeah, so this is a class that's got 2 different venues. Okay, so the first weekend will be at the Oasis Academy, and just watch out for that flipping speed camera on that road down. Yeah, Qassam, I got done by that last time. Okay, that's my jaza. Yeah. Where's Oldham? Salford. Oh, sorry, I take that back then. What was that then? The Fiqh Salah class. What was that place? Huh? Co-op. Who? Blakely. Qassam, the speed camera's got me in Blakely, yara. Yeah, so we're not in Blakely. Okay, sorry, I got that completely wrong. We're at the Oasis in Media City in Salford. That's the first weekend, and then Salford University, the nice lecture theatre, for the second weekend, inshallah. So you can register on almaghrib.org. Okay, guys? Barakallahu feek, jazakumullah khair, subhanakallahumma bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.